Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Direction. So I'm gonna go do that. So if you,
You think they can still hear me?
yeah, but they're gonna bench. So I'm gonna go ahead and put another speaker, just so you'll know. But you can start whatever you want to do. But I'm working on putting another speaker. We can't hear.
Attention in the barn. Attention in the swine barn. If you have any chairs or anything else in the aisles, make sure they are out of the way, especially near the entry gate. If you have anything in the aisles, make sure it's put away. Good evening and welcome to the 2025 Burleson County Fair Swine Show. Just a few announcements before we get started. If your pig gets pinned on the other side of the show arena, you are allowed one parent behind there with you. Again, if you get pinned, you are allowed to have one parent back there with you. Otherwise, we have 6 classes, and we're going to go ahead and play the national anthem. So if you could please stand. This is your first call, Class 1. First call, Class 1. Start making your way to the show arena. Attention in the show barn. Once your kid enters the gate into the holding area, there are no parents allowed in the holding area.
Attention in the barn, this is going to be our last call for Class 1. So if you have not brought your Class 1 pig to the arena, please do so. Also, before the show started today, we went ahead and drew for our random drug test. Our random drug test will come from Class 3, 12th place. So our random drug tested pig will come from Class 3, 12th place.
Well, good evening. It's an honor to get to come and evaluate your livestock here this evening. And I enjoyed my time here last year, and I was excited to get a call back, to get the opportunity to come back and work with you young people. As we get started here in this first class, as always, you're going to have some differences in the top 10 for sure. And it's just kind of set wherever your priorities may be. And for me, there's one I thought that just surfaces in terms of one that's being fresh, well presented, muscular, but still stays in check in terms of her hip and hind leg. At the same time, I thought this gilt, I'm not going to say she's perfect in her front third, but I thought that gilt's ability to still reach forward and grab and still push as the drive wore on, she kind of just preceded the rest of this group at the same time, offering us that muscular turn down her back. Back through her hip. Nice job with this calico gilt. Second is the young lady here in blue, and I'll be the first to tell you there's some intriguing parts about this gilt, and there's some things I'd like to just tell you right off that I'd change, but we'll talk about her positives at first. This gilt is extremely tall-shouldered and leveled in her top line there, out through her pin set at the same time. Of the top four, I felt like this one, her structural integrity was good as any of them. As she wore on, she started to get maybe a little bit tired there and wanted to get just a nickel east and west from behind for no more than she's packing, because of those top four, she's probably the one that is packing the least in terms of her hip, in terms of the spread she has from behind. She's not the stoutest featured one at the surface or about her skull. I'd like to change those things about her for this guy, but I thought her pliability in terms of her top line, and one that has good angles and reads extremely good and immature in those aspects, needed to work her way up. Next young lady's pig here, she kind of caught a pin late, and I'll be honest, I like that gilt when she came through. There's one thing that I'd like to do. I think sifts her to third for me, and that's her front feet. She needs to be picked up on her front feet. But aside from that, I thought from her blade back, her length of body, the boldness that she represents in terms of her mid-rib and down through her lower line are spot on. At the same time, she does pack more punch from behind than the one that's there in second. But it's that view whenever she wants to hot foot a little bit across there because of the soreness that she's got there in her front feet from being a little too broke down is what rolled her into third. The one coming out in four, I like some parts and pieces about this one as well. She probably has as much length of stride and just flexible reach off both ends of her skeleton as any. She's a more elevated type hog than those that were right ahead of her. At the same time, she wants to get just a nickel stretchier in terms of her mid-body, wants to maybe just looks a little drier in terms of the middle lower part of her body shape there. When she turns and comes right at you, we need to pry that one apart, give her just more natural chest, maybe looks a little more mature about her head and skull, maybe tidy that up a little bit. Next gilt out, she kind of matches a couple others that maybe are a little bit below her here, but in terms of type and kind, very moderate type gilt, muscular, opened up, awesome presentation, one that we just need to make her more comfortable when she turns and goes away from you. Her hock set's too wide for me in terms of where her pin set is. At the same time, like the gilt that we worked there about third. Front feet are a little bit of an issue, but young man does a nice job of getting that gilt presented. Next one out, more traditional belted one. If we're in a breeding gilt scenario, I think this gilt maybe rises up a few spots. With that said, I think that she's one that's awesome in terms of her height of shoulder. She's ladylike in terms of her front end there. She reaches good from behind. She's also one that gets a little tentative there on her front feet. When you step in on top of this gilt, we just need more natural spread and muscle shape working from down her spine there. But I think that gilt offers just a lot of quality in terms of her side profile. Next pair you can turn out together because these two are built very similar. They're very dense animals, very opened up. I love the production look in terms of their body shape and their rib. We just need to make these two girls more coordinated. Young lady in red wants to get to east and west from behind. Natural point of her shoulder and her neck attachments. Just a little too low set for me. Young man's kind of paler heighted gilt there. Same kind of scenario, lots of muscle, opened up, lots of spread. We need to lengthen her hip, make her more coordinated on both ends of her skeleton to work her up. Let's give all these exhibitors a hand.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call class 2. So first call, class 2. Start bringing your pigs to the arena. We're going to go ahead and congratulate our class 1 placings. So in 7th place, we had Miss Chloe Russ. 6th, Grayson Courtney. 5th, Dylan Brinkman Jr. 4th, Hunter Knezik. 3rd, Madeline Lewis. 2nd, Brooklyn Brinkman. And your class 1 champion was Miss Jessa Bauman. Let's go ahead and give these exhibitors a round of applause. Last call, class 2. Last call, class 2.
good trio here at the top end and a much deeper class all the way down. Even some of those that I turned back there earlier and told the kids what I'd like to change about their animal. But I think that there's some trade-off in a few of these things. But I guess for me, there was a non-negotiable on which one was winning. These young ladies blew nearest to me. That gilt hits the surface in the ring with so much presence and shape up high and still comfortable in terms of the angle that she's got to her shoulder. And at the same time, when you get in behind her, she packs a major punch and her hock stays set where it needs to. Her range of motion and just freedom on both ends of her skeleton, I think for one that's packing that much is why she needs to win. I'd like to maybe change her a little bit in relation, or the two right behind her. They're a little stouter in terms of their arm. They're bigger in terms of their front foot and front ankle. But I think that she's the totals pig out of these three that I'd like to use to go ahead and win. I thought it got real close there in second and third. I elected to use a young man's belted gilt here second. I felt like that gilt's added feature, and at the same time, her range of motion and just how everything blends together is what allowed her to go ahead and be second. Does she have as many bells and whistles as the one in third? No, but at the same time, I think this gilt is one that's great and true in terms of her body shape. She's very accurate in terms of the way that her top line is arranged there and holds that composure together, particularly as the drive continued. Young lady in three's got one that's got a massive, massive back. She's a gilt that packs a major punch when you stand in behind her. She's the stoutest in terms of her skull and her bottom of her jawline there. I just need everything to just blend a little better. Her neck set's a little too low for me, and at the same time, she hit the ring this way, and as the drive continued, it never really got any better. Her length of stride from behind and comfort level needs to be elevated there for me to work her up into that top pair. Very well presented gilt there by the young lady in three. One that comes out in four is a gilt that does also have some bells and whistles about her. She's awesome in terms of that look she has coming out of the gate. She's big-chested, she's big-ribbed, and got a lot of muscle there. It's her rear third that sorts her to fourth. For this guy, she's too short and round about her hip there. I'd like to lengthen the leveler in that regard, and at the same time, when you step in behind her, and maybe it's just a fullness thing, she wants to really get wide at times when you step in behind her. But another gilt that's fresh and good looking in terms of her look up front. Young man does a nice job. Young lady with the solid black one. I'll be honest, there was some times, I questioned some things in this class, but there was no way I wasn't working this one out of the top five. She's got an awesome build. She's got an incredible look from the side. She's a gilt that's really heavy duty in terms of her skull and particularly right down at the surface. She's big. She might be as big-footed as anything in here. You step in behind her. She's deceiving from the side. She doesn't look like she reads with much muscle. You get in behind her, and she's big in terms of her pin set. Just like I could talk about the gilt previous to her, though, she wants to get a little shorter in her upper rump. She wants to hesitate a little bit from behind and just kind of stab them in the ground. Same as I talked in the earlier class. She wants to get a little hot-footed up front, a little tender on her front feet. Like to pick her up and strengthen her in that regard. Next one coming out, and this one and another one are very similar in terms of their look and presence. I thought this gilt was one that is very comfortable, very genuine, a gilt that offers us a lot of muscle in terms of the top side of her body. I just thought she just ran out of gas in terms of look and presence from the standpoint of just right there at her jaw and the top of her neck. Wants to get just a little thicker, particularly in relation to where she is in terms of her heaviness or structure. I'd like to just intensify this gilt in this particular setting. Maybe would have been better off in the class right before in terms of where she's at in terms of spread and density. Next one out is probably on the opposite end for me. Maybe a gilt that maybe could have been up a class in terms of her frame size. Just doesn't quite fit in that regard. She's a little too tall and long in terms of what she's packing. I'd like to just give this gilt more spread in terms of her rib shape. She goes away nice, but she just needs to be freshened in terms of her mid-body for me. And right there in her ham loin wants to just get a little piecey. next one out, if we were at a cattle show and we are showing these things standing still, this one will grab your attention. She's sharp-necked, big-backed, and has the right length of body. It's when we set her in motion that I think that it works her to this spot. She gets a little pokey from behind in terms of where she wants to hit the surface at the same time. She's a little too stilty in terms of the angle to her shoulder for me. I'd like to also intensify her arm and her front foot and just give her more strength there and just more power as she comes directly at you. Let's give all these exhibitors a hand.
Okay, first call, class 3. First call, class 3. Just a reminder, the 12th place pig out of this class will be our random drug test. There we go. Yep. Our placings for class 2. In 7th place, we have Logan Barnes. 6th, Zachary Giesenschlaw. 5th, Kaylee Simon. 4th, Jonathan Howe. 3rd, Emily Cook. 2nd, Case Kinezic. And your class 2 winner was Riley Cook. Let's go ahead and give all of those exhibitors a round of applause. Okay, this is going to be your final call for class 3. And getting called back for showmanship from classes 1 and 2. For junior showmanship, we have Jonathan Howe, Brooklyn Brinkman, Harper Goss, and Jessa Bowman. Intermediate, Clayton Polashik, Riley Cook, and Nathan Meyer. And getting called back for senior showmanship is Dylan Brinkman, Kaylee Simon, Cole Meyer, and Emily Cook. We are also going to be having a Pee Wee showmanship after the conclusion of our show. And this is for any child that is not of eligible age to show, so 7 and younger. And that will be $5. So if your child wants to show 8 and under. So if your child would like to show, it's going to be $5 to enter that, and all they need is a pig from one of our exhibitors. And you can come sign up for that whenever. While our judge is placing Class 3, I wanted to go ahead and thank our Market Swine Show sponsors. Our Grand Champion Buckle was donated by the family of Jonathan Urbanowski by Jack and Carolyn Howe. Our Reserve Champion Buckle was donated by SBJST District 1, Donnie Victrick. Our Grand and Reserve Champion banners were donated by the Binky family. Our class banners were donated by Creative Awards. Our Senior Showmanship Buckle was donated by Metropolitan Water. Our Intermediate Showmanship Buckle was donated by High Tech Septic and Construction. Our Junior Showmanship Buckle was donated by Danny Lair. And our Pee Wee Showmanship Buckle was donated by Jason and Nikki Neinendorf. And our regular show sponsors were Metropolitan Water, Lillian Sankervik, John's Hot Oil Service, Scamardo Food Service and the Farm Patch, Woodson Lumber Company, EAG Automotive, Jake's Insurance Agency, and Citizen State Bank. Could we go ahead and give our sponsors a big round of applause?
Exhibitors, Remember to switch out your back number if you are coming into the ring with a second pig. Remember to switch out your back number.
Class here that comes to us in a few different parts and pieces, and ultimately I land on one that I think has some far-reaching pieces in terms of the look she presents from the side, and she's good in terms of her chest and square to the surface, one that's up on her front feet and still offers us some muscle out of the back of her shoulder to her hip. I'd like to change this gilt in the way that she utilizes her rear hock and pastern. She's just a little too rigid for me, honestly, but in this particular class, in this particular setting, I'm going to say that she's acceptable in that regard because I think that she offers us a lot of quality aside from maybe just getting a little nitpicky there on her hock. I thought the decision for me was 2 through 5 or 6 there, just wherever a person wants to lie their priorities. The young man's gilt that kind of lost her temper on us, that gilt hit me really hard as she came through the gate. I love this gilt skull. I love the shape that she's got to her blade and how she comes at you. At the same time, in relation to that one that beats her, she's not as comfortable in terms of the way she goes there. She wants to just get a little more east and west. At the same time, she maybe hadn't ate or drank as good here at the show and just looks a little drier in terms of her mid-body and her lower line. But the young man gets all he can out of her, even though she's got a bad attitude. The young man with the blue gilt just kind of worked his way up. And honestly, I will say that is the lightest muscled in the top 8. But for me, for this show, Judge, you got to have them built better in terms of the way that they're assembled in their skeleton in order to get enough muscle on them. This gilt is that. She's tall-shouldered, great in her top line. She uses her hock and her passion, her rear foot better than anything that we've had in here in this particular class. She gives you an awesome presence from the side. It's coming and going. What works her into third, she needs to be more opened up on both ends of her skeleton. Just give this gilt more natural muscle. One coming out in 4s, another one that her attitude kind of works her down just a shade because this gilt is massive in terms of her back line. Probably the biggest back one we may have seen up to this point. A gilt that stays square and true in terms of her hock, even though she is kind of lost her composure a little bit. But a gilt that just doesn't quite balance for me. I'd like to just lengthen her upper hip a little bit and square her up from that regard. At the same time, down low, she gets a little bit frailer in terms of the size of her ankle and just her heaviness of structure to match what she's got on the top side of her skeleton. Next gilt out is a stoutie. I mean, her head's stout and she's broad-headed. She's good in terms of that. She's awesome in terms of her muscle. A gilt that just comes to me in a few too many parts and pieces. She gets a little rounder about her shoulder. She gets a little lower set in terms of her stature there. When she turns and goes away from you, she'll be the first of about 3 of them that I'd like to just tuck that stifle and hock joint inside of her body wall a little bit neater and tidier. Just give her a little more agility as she moves here. The next one out, same thing can be said there. A well-presented gilt, big in terms of the shape she's got up high, awesome in terms of her skull shape. Her arms big. She wants to come in her knee ever so slightly in relation to that one right ahead of her. This one, the young man was working to try to do it, but she just would never go for him. That one's got to catch a gear and just feel a little more athletic when she turns and goes away from you. Her hock gets a little too wide in terms of where her feet hit the surface. At the same time, she's one maybe gets a little flatter in terms of her cage in relation to that one ahead of her. Calico gilt kind of splits them here. She's another one that's got a great look from the side. She's elevated. She's got some length about her front end, and she's got more athleticism from behind than maybe that one right ahead of her. This gilt just gets a little too bland for me in terms of her body shape. She wants to come at you, just wants to close up a little too much there in terms of her knee. But another gilt that's got a lot of quality. Last one out is another one. I talked about it earlier. I don't want to overuse this, but at the same time, standing still, incredible in terms of her balance and proportions. Comes out the gate and demands your attention. But one, whenever you step in behind her, she just wants to get too wide at the surface at the same time. But one that just wants to get a little drier in terms of her top line in relation to those just ahead of her. Let's give all these kids a round of applause. They head back to the pens.
First call, Class 4. This is your first call, Class 4.
Okay, we're going to call last call, Class 4. Last call, Class 4. Make sure your pigs are headed to the arena. Our placings from Class 3. In 7th place, we had Aubrey Flincher. 6th place, Carson Schultz. 5th place, Carson Schultz. 4th place, Jason Lyday. 3rd place, Hunter Knezik. 2nd, Dylan Brinkman Jr., and our class champion was Miss Natalie Smith. Let's go ahead and give all of those exhibitors a round of applause. Also, getting called back for showmanship. For junior, we had Grayson Courtney. Intermediate, Hunter Knezik. And senior, Natalie Smith and Braxton Fritcher. are having our Pee Wee Showmanship again this year, and that is for any child who is 8 years old or younger, and it is $5. And if you are wanting to sign up, you can come over to the table and get your child signed up before the show is over.
good class here, and it runs all the way deeper than the previous class there. And with that being said, I thought that there was 4 or 5 here at the top of this that required a little more time and attention, and maybe I drove them a nickel longer, but I thought this top trio offered us a lot of the same qualities in terms of being animals that are dense and opened up and square in terms of coming and going in terms of their chest. As the drive wore on, I thought this young lady's gilt maintained the most flexibility in terms of the way she used her shoulder and her front foot. As she's starting to get a little bit upset now, but we've been driving them at a high rate for a good while. But that gilt's got all the spread you would want up high, packs a big punch from behind. Maybe we'd like to change her neck attachment a little bit for this show, Judge, and the way that it ties into her blade there, but that's getting awful critical on a nice pig. Young lady's painted up gilt here. Same similarities in terms of being opened up on both ends of her skeleton. A hog that, for me, just didn't have the same blend in terms of her density, particularly out of her front end. She wants to get a little rounder in terms of her shoulder, and her elbow doesn't quite blend into her body wall as nice as the gilt that wins there. Just wants to roll out there a little bit up front, and it could be a little bit due to her color pattern. I just didn't read this gilt to just be as heavy duty in terms of her ankle and her rear foot and pasturing as that gilt that wins, but another nice gilt there to be in 2. The young lady here in 3, I didn't get a great look at this gilt coming out of the gate. She kind of balled up on her, and so she got pinned later down in the drive, but after she got out and started driving, worked her way up tremendously. That is the bold chest, neat bladed kind of a gilt. It offers us a lot in terms of her muscle shape. She's a gilt, though, for me. We need to dial her back in terms of her rear, just the way she's assembled from behind. She wants to get just a nickel wide. I see her lymph node there is puffed up. It happens. It's humidity, and we've been pushing on these things to get all we can at them for these young people. And so that obviously, for me, didn't really work her into 3rd. Of those top trio, though, I thought for what she had maxed out up high, I'd like to see this one a little bigger right at the surface. I thought she closed up the most in terms of her ankle and foot spread, but another gilt that offers us a lot of density and quality to be there in 3. Young lady blue mask gilt, of the top of the ones we've talked in this particular class, this is the breeding gilt, I guess, of that scenario in terms of flexibility and looseness of shoulder and skeleton. She still offers us plenty in terms of muscle shape. I thought for this particular drive, as it wore on, she wanted to just get a little deviated in terms of her top line there. She didn't blend near as good in terms of her ham loin hookup. Maybe wanted to swivel just a shade from behind. But you talk about loose structured animal that can just withstand a drive in terms of just her looseness of her shoulder and front foot and the way she's assembled there. Very good job by that young lady. The next one coming out, I mean, wow, that thing has got monster legs, right? Anybody can probably see that. She is tremendous in terms of her bone and her structure. If this one was a breeding gilt, maybe you'd say, well, she was 5th at the county. This one would be a generator, I think, in terms of one that you took her to the sow pen and started turning her loose. She is not the widest pen. She's not the widest chested one. And maybe from a balance standpoint, she gets a little stretchy in terms of her mid-body to balance, particularly for this scenario. But she is heavy, heavy bone, got a neat little tidy head on her. I'd like to maybe just freshen her in terms of out of her blade and down through her ham loin in this particular class, but an awesome piecey kind of a gilt there to be in 5. Young lady's bearer that comes out next. It's his first 3 steps coming out of the gate that works him down. He's too tentative out of his front end. He's a little softer in terms of his foot, so he doesn't quite trust the surface. At the same time, I'd like to just freshen this bear up. He looks a little too dry in terms of his top line and hair coat. And as she gets all she can out of him and drives, he gets a little east and west from behind at the same time as he's searching up front. But a very productive, good-bodied kind of a pig. The next gilt out is one that grabs your attention from the side profile in terms of being elevated, jet level back there to her tail set. This gilt just needs to get more. She just needs to be broadened in terms of her center body and her chest at the same time. She's the most refined to me in terms of her skull and density as she hits the surface. I'd like to stouten her in that regard just to make everything balance a little better. young man's gilt that comes out next is one that is great in terms of her proportions. She's another gilt that I'd like to just see a little more genuine feature and stoutness in. In relation to those ahead of her. She gets a little more tilted forward in terms of the angle to her shoulder, wants to close up there at her knee as she comes directly at you. Let's give all these exhibitors a hand as they head back to the pens.
First call, class 5. First call, class 5.
Okay, our results from class 4. In 7th place was Nathan Meyer. 6th was Kirsten Motzik. 5th, Colt Knezik. 4th, Harper Goss. 3rd, Madeline Gilliam. 2nd, Jessa Bowman. And our class winner for class 4 was Emily Cook. Let's go ahead and give those exhibitors a round of applause. And then getting called back for showmanship from class 4 was in junior was Colt Knezik, and then in senior Kirsten Motzik. While our judge is placing our Class 5, we wanted to go ahead and thank our Swine Show sponsors. Our Grand Champion Buckle is donated by the family of Jonathan Urbanowski by Jack and Carolyn Howe. Our Reserve Champion Buckle is donated by SPJST District 1, Donnie Trick. Our Grand and Reserve banners were donated by the Binky family. Our class banners were donated by Creative Awards. Our Senior Showmanship Buckle was donated by Metropolitan Water. Our Intermediate Showmanship Buckle was donated by High Tech Septic and Construction. Our Junior Showmanship Buckle was donated by Danny Lair. And our Pee Wee Showmanship Buckle was donated by Jason and Nikki Neinendorf. And then our regular show sponsors were Metropolitan Water, Lillian Sinkervik, John's Hot Oil Surface, Scamardo Food Service and the Farm Patch, Woodson Lumber Company, EAG Automotive, Jake's Insurance Agency, and Citizens State Bank.
good class here on the top end, and all the I enjoy the applause and the attention these kids get, especially in a setting like this. And I think that it makes my job a little harder out here because I know each of these girls have worked extremely hard to get to where they're at in terms of at home to get to this setting. But as I sit back and start breaking them down, the young ladies bear there kind of off belt. He's the one that fits me the best in terms of one that's stout, opened up, a hog that's got true shape to the middle part of his rib cage. He's the widest when you get right in on top of him, right out of the back of his blade through his hip. He proportions the best to me in terms of his length of body and matching his length of front and his hip there. He wants to, as the drive wore on, he wants to push outside of his stifle a little bit, and I'll be critical on him from that regard. I'd like to see him maybe maintain his squareness to the surface, going away a little better, but a hog that is genuinely opened up and big-bodied, and a hog that still has a lot of density about him. The next pair, I think, is extremely interesting, and as I studied them, I looked up, and just me being me, I was like, man, those things are similar. Well, their notches are similar as well. I don't know if they're actually mates, but they sure look like it. I think both of those pigs complement each other in some areas, and I'd like to change each of them a little bit. The young ladies, Barra there, man, that thing has got a big fresh hair coat and back in him. He's got a good hip and hind leg, and that's where I like him over the young lady's gilt. He's a little truer and square out through his pin set. Both of these, I'd like to just intensify them in terms of their stoutness. Both of them run out of stoutness in terms of their arm and front foot and where they hit the surface there. I just felt like the Barra maybe is just fresher down the top side of his body, composed his top line as the drive wore on in relation to the young lady's gilt here that'll be in 3. Same kind of deal, though. I just like to intensify her as she comes at you, make her bigger arm, make her bigger and more secure in her front foot. At the same time, when she leaves you, she wants to drop her pins ever so slightly and just runs out of gas in relation to that just ahead of her. The one that comes out here in 4, she kind of worked her way up. Young man did a nice job of doing that, and in the way she worked herself up is that view from the side. That's an elevated gilt that's good in her top line. She's as good and accurate in terms of her rear step as anything. But when we get into this setting, she just needs to just be more opened up. She's the flattest and driest in terms of her mid-body. I thought that kind of pulled her balance apart a little bit for me, but just one that works her way up in terms of her comfort and her security in terms of her hock and rear leg. Young lady's gilt comes out next. She is one that's bolder bodied. She's bigger back. She's bigger ended. She just doesn't balance as good for me. She wants to get a little rounder in terms of her muscle pattern. Didn't quite have that look and presence about her front end that those just ahead of her did. The next one coming out, one that's really dialed in terms of hair and skin. I need to peel some off of this Barra. He's a little fleshy for me in terms of the top side of his body. Just looks a little squishy. But the biggest, I guess, thing to take away from him is his agility from behind. His angles read good, but that pig's got to go. He just wants to be too hesitant in his rear step and just doesn't really just want to reach out there and grab some dirt and push his hock back behind him. Another one that maybe to match what he's got up high. We need to intensify his ankle and just make him stouter at the surface. Young lady's gilt comes out next. Maybe one that just hadn't quite settled in good in terms of eating and drinking here. She looks awful dry out here in relation to her contemporaries. She wants to get flatter about her cage at the same time. I'd like to lean. She's just a little bit stretchy in terms of her mid-body. Doesn't blend as good as some of those just ahead of her. Next gilt coming out is really bold and stout, really big in terms of her blade and her chest. A gilt that maybe is better suited for maybe the breeding ring in terms of that regard. She's not as elevated at the point of her shoulder. Wants to run downhill a little bit, get a little squishier up front. Young man here that ends up 9th. Another one that's well presented. Another gilt that just gets a little too dry and flat in terms of her mid-body and her lower line. I'd like to change her head shape a little bit. She gets a little bit too Roman nose for me. I'd like to just make that a little broader in terms of her eye set. Let's give all these exhibitors a hand as they head back.
First call, class 6. First call, class 6. Bring your pigs to the show arena. Also, swine exhibitors, at the table, we have your release form. For the pig that you are not selling, if you want it to go home, we have your release form. Those must be turned in on Friday by 5 p.m. They are due Friday at 5 p.m.
Our results from class 5, we had Charlotte Paul in 7th place, Riley Cook in 6th, Paisley Goss in 5th, JT Bowman in 4th, Kaylee Simon in 3rd, Natalie Smith in 2nd, and our class 5 champion was Damani Morris. Let's go ahead and give those exhibitors a round of applause. And then getting called back for showmanship out of class 5 for junior, we had Case Kanezik and Damani Morris. And then intermediate, we had Charlotte Paul. Just a reminder, this is our last class of the show. So at the conclusion of class 6, all of our first place pigs from classes 1 through 5 will need to make their way to the arena. We are not going to call second places up yet, but I want second place pigs to be on standby in case your class champion gets chosen for grand.
Interesting class here to land on. There's when you get to this point, it's kind of the survival of the fittest in terms of those that are still fresh and still read immature in terms of their skull and where they're at in terms of their flesh. I think that we're going to have a mixed bag to kind of discuss here, but I think all these could bring us some quality. For me, it was a non-negotiable on which one was going to win the last class. This young man's, I thought, hit the ring and demanded some attention in terms of one that's broad and dense and still has a fresh back shape to her. Her length of stride from behind is almost overstepping at times in terms of she almost covers her front track when she reaches from behind. I do like that gilt a good deal. Now, I will be the first to say I'd like to maybe just tidy her up a little bit, but in terms of her cheek and her jawline, but when you get to this weight, there's going to be some things that we'd like to change about all of them. Second's going to be the young lady in red, and critics at ringside will get onto me and say, well, you've been hard on those flat-footed ones all day, and sometimes you have to just take what the class gives you. In this scenario, I felt like that gilt on the stand, it balances and is proportional as anything that we've probably seen. She's awesome in terms of her pin set from behind. She's still mobile in terms of the way that she moves. I'd like to change those things about her, and at the same time, she's one that just fits the weight for me. Her proportions and just her center body and the way that she blends is very good. The gilt is going to be in 3. I think a month ago you maybe would have thought, hey, this gilt's got a chance, but she's probably taking a growth spurt on them here, and she's a gilt that just looks too dry to me in terms of her mid body, a little past her point in terms of the show ring setting, but a gilt that still they've maintained some freshness up high. She's awesome in terms of her jawline, and the way she uses her front foot assembly is very good. She's a gilt that wants to get a little slinky in terms of her body when you set her in motion and get it a little bit tighter there in her ham loin, just to be a little critical on her, but she's still a very nice gilt to land there in 3. The 1 and 4 maybe matches 1 and 2 a little more, in terms of her body type and her density and her spread that she's got. But at the same time, this gilt, we need to change her in terms of her hock set from behind. She gets just a little too soft there, and at the same time wants to get a little east and west whenever you set her in motion. I didn't read that gilt to be as stout in terms of her jaw and her neck attachment as the gilt that preceded her here in class. Young man's predominantly black gilt here is another one that offers just a lot of raw, fresh shape down her back. She's awesome in terms of her top line there. She just runs out of gas in this particular class. When you step in behind her, you'd like to just get more in relation to those just ahead of her. She also wants to just get a little cheeky and throaty there from a side profile. I'd like to change that about her to work her up. The next one in line here is one that does have a better look and awesome silhouette from the side. That gilt does look fresh and youthful about her head. She's of the ones we've talked so far, though. She's the one that is the least natural in terms of her spread, and when she turns and comes at you, she's the narrowest there at her knee as she turns and goes away. I just need to intensify her in terms of her bone structure to have her match what's up high. red belted gilt that comes out next. I think that there's some quality in this particular gilt in terms of her squareness of chest. She's a gilt that I need to lay her back in her shoulder to make her more comfortable. She wants to search out of her front end as she gets driven there. Also, of these that we've talked, I feel like that one maybe just needs to be freshened up in terms of her look. She looks a little crestier there about her neck as she drives and goes away from you. She's square in terms of her pin and where she hits the surface, but just wants to run out of gas there in the lower part of her ham in relation to some of those in this particular drive. The next gilt out does not run out of that at all. She is big-ended, she's big-boned, she's stout. But this is another gilt, like I talked a few ago. She's just a little past her point in terms of show ring ready. She's the blandest in terms of her top line and freshness in that standpoint when she comes at you. We got to square her up at her knee when she hits the surface. Let's give all these exhibitors a hand like you have all day.
Class winners, we need our first place pigs from all 6 classes to please come to the show ring. First place winners, please come to the show rings. Second place pigs, stay at your pin but be ready.
While our first place pigs are headed back to the show arena, I wanted to go ahead and repeat the names of those that are going to get called back for our showmanships at the conclusion of our grand and reserve selection. The exhibitors called back for junior are Jonathan Howe, Brooklyn Brinkman, Harper Goss, Jessa Bowman, Grayson Courtney, Colt Knezik, Case Knezik, Damani Morris, Kaysen Skurhawk, and Claire Russ. For intermediate, we had Clayton Palashik, Riley Cook, Nathan Meyer, Hunter Knezik, Charlotte Paul, Caden Simon, and Briley Schmeller. And then getting called back for senior showmanship was Dylan Brinkman, Kaylee Simon, Cole Meyer, Emily Cook, Natalie Smith, Braxton Fritcher, Kirsten Motzik, and Logan Barnes. And like I said, we will do our showmanship after the selection of our grand and reserve champion. Competing for our Grand Champion Drive, we have Class 1 winner Jessa Bowman, Class 2 winner Riley Cook, Class 3 winner Natalie Smith, Class 4 winner Emily Cook, Class 5 winner Damani Morris, and then your Class 6 winner Caden Simon.
Well, this has been enjoyable from my side of the fence here. The kids have been awesome and brought a very good set of animals for me to evaluate. And you know, I second year to judge this show, so I got an opportunity, you know, to be here before, and I don't like giving the same song and dance. I'm not a big speech giver, but I will say the animals have been very good. The quality's been extremely deep. And from that, I'd like to just commend you as families and as kids on a job well done. So give yourself a round of applause for that effort. Real quick, I'll say this has been really ran in terms of smoothness. You know, a couple of them were apologizing to me for making, you know, having me to wait. But I'm a very fast-paced person, just like I'm very decisive and quick in what I want to do. And sometimes I feel like I need to slow down just to let everybody catch up. But these guys in the back and running gates and getting them up here did an awesome job. I think you have an incredible show. You can look around and look at all the people ringside that are here to support you guys, and I think that obviously comes without notice to me. So thank you to you people that are volunteers and the ones that run this show. I think all those people deserve a round of applause as well. With that, I'm going to make this quick. I think that as we come back, there was about 3 of them in my head that I thought, hey, these things got a little bit legitimate chance. There's one I hadn't forgot about. She's been on my mind the whole time. Young Ladies Bluegill right here is going to be our champion.
Okay, so our grand champion came out of Class 2, Miss Riley Cook. And so we will need Case Kinesic to bring his second place pig from Class 2.
I'd be a little remiss, honestly, if I didn't also recognize, some of my people back home that allow me or give me the opportunity to get away and come do this for your young people. And we got state fair bears on feed. We have state fair steer. We've got babies in the barn. You name it. And so. With all that being said, if it weren't for my wife and boys back home tending to things, my phone's completely blown up, but I've made myself a promise I won't look at it while I'm judging the show anymore. And so I'm sure whenever I get off here and look at my phone, I'm going to have plenty of complaints from them for something not being there that was needed. But anyway, I'd be remiss if I did not thank them for giving me the opportunity to come do this. But we'll get back to the pigs here, and that second place gilt out of that class comes in. We talked about that class. It was really good. That gilt is as fault-free as anything. She's definitely in the hunt. Maybe we'd just like to see that one just pry open, just a shade in this setting. There's a few others out here, I think, that require or demand a talk. The other belted gilt here nearest to me, opened up, square, muscular. One that I'd just like to change the angle to her shoulder a little bit, just make that neck attachment just a little more attractive for me. The young lady there with the barra there coming to me, as big and stout as anything in here, wanted from behind. I'd just like to set that thing stifle and hawk a little tighter in there from behind, and maybe give her just a little different ear set and head set. There's one that I guess has been driving a very, very long time. Young man out of the last class, you're going to be reserved.
Congratulations to Caden Simon, your reserve champion, Market Swine. We are going to take backdrop pictures for our grand and reserve pigs, so we're going to take about a 10-minute break before we start showmanship. We're going to do junior showmanship first, and then followed by intermediate, senior, and then peewee. So we're going to take a little break to get our backdrop pictures done, and then we'll be back.
going to go ahead and start with our junior showmanship. I'm going to go ahead and call out the exhibitors that were chosen, and y'all start heading to the ring. We had Jonathan Howe, Brooklyn Brinkman, Harper Goss, Jessa Bowman, Grayson Courtney, Colt Knezik, Case Knezik, Damani Morris, Kaysen Skurhawk, and Claire Russ. So if you are wanting to participate in junior showmanship and I just called your name, go ahead and head up to the ring. We just wanted to go ahead and thank our sponsors one more time before the show is complete. Our Market Swine Show sponsors for this year, our Grand Champion Buckle was donated by the family of Jonathan Urbanowski by Jack and Carolyn Howe. Our Reserve Champion Buckle was donated by SPJST, District 1, Donnie Vitrick. Our Grand and Reserve banners were donated by the Binky family. Our class banners were donated by Creative Awards. Our Senior Showmanship Buckle was donated by Metropolitan Water. Our Intermediate Showmanship Buckle was donated by High Tech Septic and Construction. Our Junior Showmanship Buckle was donated by Danny Lair. And our Pee Wee Showmanship Buckle was donated by Jason and Nikki Neinendorf. Our normal show sponsors were Metropolitan Water, Lillian K. Sankervik, John's Hot Oil Service, Scamardo Food Service in the Farm Patch, Woodson Lumber Company, EAG Automotive, Jake's Insurance Agency, and Citizen State Bank. Could we go ahead and give our sponsors a round of applause?
I don't know. We need to ask him.
Awesome way to start off the evening, and first and foremost, just wanted to thank the entire crew for having me out. Always an extreme blessing to get to come out here and share your opinion. It was really fun to watch Corey sort through a really high-quality show and just get to work with your young people here this evening. I thought we have 10 tremendous showmen, and obviously they had to work really, really hard just to get here and to the show and then get to this point where they get to come out here and compete for the champion junior showman. And for any of the older kids listening ringside, this is a pretty helpful tip. But if you can have the right kind of pace and the right kind of presence, you can do a lot of things. And that just helps you be very, very successful to me as a showman. Sure, doing all the little things right, being on the right side of your pig matters, hitting your pig in the right spot matters. But if you can have the right pace and then just present yourself to a very, very high degree, you can suit me and be very, very successful with my showmanship style, with what I like. I certainly think that fits me from a competitiveness standpoint. It matters whenever we go to the Texas Majors and have to be in a SIF-type scenario. That's why I prioritize those two things extremely, just a lot. I think when we come out here and just take a step back and evaluate the showmen, there's 6 or 7 of them that are very, very close to being very good and competing at a high level, but I'm not sure there's one showman that just jumps out and does everything 100% right all the time. So from that perspective, I think there's something every showman, including our champion, can work on. But with that being said, there still is one showman out here that suits me extremely good. This particular showman is just so competitive in how they present themselves, and it's unfortunate her pig has a little giddy up out here because I wish she'd just move a little faster. She's still extremely good. Young lady in the red is going to be your champion.
Your junior showmanship winner is Miss Claire Russ. Hey, all y'all kids.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call down our intermediate showmanship participants. We had Clayton Palashik, Riley Cook, Nathan Meyer, Hunter Kinezic, Charlotte Paul, Caden Simon, and Briley Schmeller. So go ahead and head to the ring for intermediate showmanship.
Judging showmanship today is Mr. Michael Resendez. He comes from Bryan, Texas, but he originally grew up in Madera, California, where he grew up on his family's almond ranch, and him and his brothers grew up showing pigs and goats. Out of high school, he judged on an extremely successful judging team for Blinn College. He graduated from Texas A&M University, where he studied animal science and was a member of the Reserve National Champion Livestock Judging Team. Through his time in college, he worked for Brockman Farms as a herdsman and sales consultant, and now operates Resendez Show Pigs, a small herd of crossbred and Berkshire sows. Currently, he is pursuing a master's in animal science and has hopes to become a veterinarian, all while planning a wedding for next summer with his fiancée, Emily. His biggest passion is giving back to the industry that grew him and working with the future leaders of the livestock industry. Let's give Mr. Michael Resendez a round of applause.
Well, another extremely good group of showmen out here in our intermediate division, and certainly the smallest division in terms of number of entries out here. But I still think a tremendous group of showmen. I have a terrible poker face, and I'm not afraid to admit it. So if you could see where my head's at through my judging, you wouldn't be the first person that's been able to pick on it from that side of the fence, and you certainly won't be the last. But certainly I think it boils down to a pair of them, and it's the young lady here in the striped shirt, the young lady there in the pink. I think they're both extremely good showmen that hit you in different kind of ways. And we'll just talk them in no particular order. The young lady in the pink, I think the way she presents herself and just the look of intensity and a competitive nature out here is extremely good and extremely hard to beat. At times, in my opinion, she wants to get further outside of my frame of vision than what I'd consider ideal. She wants to stand a little further from her pig than what I'd consider ideal. And then of the two showmen we're going to talk about, she certainly just maintains a bit slower pace out here. And then the other young lady here in the striped shirt, I think if you want to talk about a fundamental showman that's always in the right place, that could certainly hit the holes and just show you all the views of her pig, she's very, very good in that regard. I love the pace and what she presents her barrel out here. Thing's always moving at an appropriate speed without running. To me, in my opinion, relative to the other showmen, maybe just not quite as intense in terms of eye contact and intensity, not quite as smooth in her maneuvers, but I think nonetheless a very, very good pair of them. If a guy wanted to cuss and discuss this all day, they could certainly argue it. That's nothing to take away from the other five. I certainly think they do a good job. Give them all a big round of applause, and I'll shake the hand of your champion.
Your intermediate showmanship winner is Miss Riley Cook.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and start our senior showmanship. Our senior exhibitors getting called back were Dylan Brinkman, Kaylee Simon, Cole Meyer, Emily Cook, Natalie Smith, Braxton Fritcher, Kirsten Motzik, and Logan Barnes. Y'all go ahead and head up to the ring.
apologize for taking just a few extra minutes. I know these pigs are hot and tired and ready to go call it an evening, but I certainly felt like this division warranted just an extra look because they're so good and so deep, and there's some very close decisions that a guy has to make here when they go out and select their champion senior showman. Obviously, there was 3 girls that I just followed just a little bit more because their styles and the way they presented themselves out here suited me just a bit better. I think amongst the trio of girls that I really evaluated and that I really liked their style and the ones that hit me as very competitive, there's just one that's probably the least distracting in how she presents herself. I know that's probably not a great way to say it, but just a showman that's so smooth, and all the focus is on making her animal look the absolute best it can out here, and yet this showman still looks very collected, very confident, and very competitive, and just intense in her look out here. I thought the entire group was really good, and you should be very proud just to make it this far. I thought there was 3 showmen that take it to another level, and one I'm very comfortable in using. Give them all a round of applause, and I'll shake the hand of your champion.
Your senior showmanship winner is Miss Emily Cook. Pee Wee Showman. If you are participating in the Pee Wee Showmanship, please make your way to the ring.
Well, circus aside, I certainly think this is one of the most challenging, one of the most enjoyable parts of a show. And I certainly don't think it matters whether your kid was on the ring showing her pig lights out, your kid was on the side of the ring, your kid was chasing a calico pig around the ring. Just getting them out here is a huge deal. And before we get to talking too much further, everybody ringside, stand up and make this a huge deal for all these kids. As much as I tried to talk them out of it, they told me I still had to come out here and pick a first place. I think there's two showmen that really and truly do a great job out here, not just for their age, not just for the setting, two showmen that come out here and do a really, really nice job. And that's the young lady in the blue on the far side and the young man here in the red with the off-belted gilt. If anybody else at this point in time would like to come in the ring, grab the microphone, and decide between them, I would definitely invite you to do so. In all seriousness, let's give all these kids one more big round of applause. I'll take a look and shake the hand of your champion Pee Wee showman.
Your Pee Wee showmanship winner is Miss Bailey Cook.